For me personally, as I say, as a lifelong fan, some brilliant moments in there, and if you're not excited for Sunday, you know, what are you doing? So yeah, probably a bit mad putting a fans forum on at the climax of the season before that, but pretty exciting nonetheless. So did all the little housekeeping before. You've got those QR codes if you want to submit a question via that, then questions from the room. I'll just do a little panel introduction. So panel tonight, we've got Suzanne Kidd, who's our finance director, who I'm sure you know very well. We've got Mark Tini, our head of football. Mark Hughes, our head coach. And other fun little fact, I'm also a Chelsea fan. Growing up in the 90s, used to be famous for his volleys. And what I used to do, I used to throw a ball off the wall and volley it onto my mum's bed, pretend to be Mark Hughes. Now one time, one of the bedposts snapped, and so I propped it up like that, and I thought, oh, that'll be all right. And my mum sat on the bed, and the bed collapsed, and she's probably got a complex ever since. But so personally, I like Mark as well, and it turns out I think you maybe did the same thing when you were there. So, yeah. We've got Tom Piatic, our owner, chairman, Matt Spooner, chairman of our supporters trust, Kerry Jardine, who's our commercial manager. So Kerry stepped up to that role, running our commercial operation this year. She's really nervous, so if you get loads of really tough questions about the commercial aspects of the club, so not friends anymore. And James Toes, who's CEO of our Community Sports Trust. So what I thought we'll do first half, we'll do football, fan engagement questions. As I said, there's a QR code if you'd like to submit questions that way, or you can raise your hand. So we'll do football and fan engagement, and then we'll have a little pause. People might need a bit of a comfort break, but I think we'll be okay. And then we'll do second half, general club developments, anything you want to ask in that sense, we'll do as well. If we don't get through all the questions, obviously we've captured them on that QR code, we will follow them up as well. And I've got my glamorous other assistant, Simon Clarkson, over here, who's always supported me as an officer, to help me getting mics around the room if people need a microphone to get the questions going. So yeah, thank you everyone for attending. We've got a mixture of season ticket holders, supporters, members of supporters groups, so hopefully a real good mix from the fan base. We're live streaming as well, so don't swear. And the live stream will be available for people to watch back afterwards. So firstly, just on football matters, Mark and Mark, if want to give us a little kind of introduction and a bit of a review of the season.
Just check if everyone can hear me okay. Obviously, Martini, head of football operations, delighted to be here. Amazing the points tally that we've got at the minute, and to fully understand, I think, how we're here, it's probably prevalent to me to mention the start really when I first came in. Obviously Mark had taken over the club, and one of the first games I saw, I think it was Salford were here, end of the season. A lot of you fans would have stood on at the end of that game. That probably really hit home with me about the fan base, the support, and what had been achieved. You know, unfortunately not being able to escape the drop, but what could be done here on the basis of that kind of fan support. Needed a reset, review, and I think Mark put it really well this week when he called it a rebuild, which it is. And to be in this position now, over the summer working really hard with the ownership, shoulder to shoulder with Mark, we got our heads together. I could see from the outside what I thought we needed, but Mark and the ownership could already see on the inside. Strategy wise, we looked to improve the pace in the team, the fitness in the team. We really needed the team to kind of be a modern player, and to fit and kind of put out on the pitch what we see in the stands, all the passion, the high energy, and bring that to life. And I think that's what Mark and his staff have done so well this season, leading into these two huge games for the football club. So lot of change along the way. Firstly, new head of recruitment came in Martin Foyle, working well with people that were already in the building like Jacob. We had many meetings over the summer about what we'd look for, what the profile would look for, where we needed improvements, where Mark felt that the team and the squad just needed a little bit of help. And I think one thing on the list pretty high up was the character of those individuals. They needed to come into a mix of a squad that had quite a large influx of players come in the January before. And I think the character of those people, the likes of, I won't go through everyone, but the likes of your Morgan Feeney's, of which you all know, leadership qualities, those kind of things go a long way in a season like this. And I think these kind of stand up around these kind of times when you're in these big games, hopefully going on to these big stadiums and stand up to be counted. So we had many meetings over the summer, and those were the building blocks for this season. You stuck with us through the whole season. I mean, I knew this fan base was full of great support, but I mean some of the away travel and the way you turned out in numbers week on week is just amazing. And it means a lot to the players, it means a lot to the ownership, everyone on this panel here. It means a lot to us. So just from me to you, thank you very much for that. Thank you for being here tonight, and yeah, let's look forward to what we hope is a great game on Sunday.
Hi everybody. You okay? Yeah. Excited for the weekend?
Yeah.
Absolutely. From my point of view, I think looking back to where we were and where the group of players that I had when I initially came in, it was a big ask initially to try and bring everybody together in the time that we had. We came close, but not close enough. Obviously, had the disappointment of going out of the Football League, which was a huge disappointment for everybody. And from that point onwards, there was a lot of work to do. As always, at the end of every season, there's a huge churn of players. And really, the key for me was understanding who could help us, who wanted to help us, and those that didn't want to be anywhere near the place. And that was the reality of what we saw from close in. So we needed to address that. We needed to address the culture, and needed to address the standards and behaviours of a lot of things around the club in terms of the playing staff, and that's what we needed to do. But we were stepping really into the unknown, because the National League, for the most part, is a league that certainly I didn't know anything about. A lot of the players had no experience of it as well. So, as Mark mentioned, I mentioned it last week about it being a reset and a rebuild, because we needed to understand that there were no givens this year, because it was a step in the dark to a certain extent. Huge expectations around everything that we were supposed to do this year, but we had to go out there and actually step on the pitch and actually try and get the job done. We ran two very good teams, very, very close. I think probably the added expectation came from the fact only one goes out of this league, and that makes it very difficult for everybody else. But we're very much in the mix. We're all looking forward to Sunday. It's going to be a great day, and we've got more to come. It won't be the last game. So thanks for your support this year. It's been really important for us. Couldn't have done it without you. But we need a huge effort at the weekend and beyond, just to get us over the line, to get us out of this league.
Thank you, Mark and Mark. So have we got any football questions from the room? Football or fan engagement questions? I can see a couple have come through on the slide over here. Does anyone want to kick us off? Pun intended. Is Clive in the room? Clive? Do you want me to ask your question? Yeah. It's a question from Clive. Mark, after watching Boreham Wood last night, which players impressed you, and what threat do you see to Carlisle on Sunday?
Well, I enjoyed the game. I thought it was two teams trying their best to achieve their own targets. As it got into extra time, I was hoping more and more were going to come out with cramp or pull a calf or something, and a few of them looked like they were on their last leg, so I'm hoping a few don't turn up for the weekend. But they're a good team. We'll give them full respect. The obvious ones, obviously, the likes of Abdul Malik. Didn't particularly have a really strong game last night, but still played a part in the key moment of the game. And those are the players that really we have to be aware of and keep quiet. If we do that, then we give ourselves a better chance. So yeah, a good team. I think surprised a lot of people this year, obviously coming up and having as strong a season as they've had. But we respect their abilities, but I'm more than confident that we'll be able to get the job done.
Thank you, Mark. Any other questions from the room? Yourself there?
Given the success we've seen from players like Reason, Hetherington, given the success we've seen from players like Reason, Hetherington, and the promise shown in recent youth teams, is the club considering a greater long-term investment in academy development rather than relying heavily on external recruitment? Do you see a pathway where Carlisle can become that club that develops and promotes more of its own talent, both for first-team contribution and long-term sustainability?
I think that's excellent question, excellent point. Yeah, it's something that me and Mark and the wider football club are in alignment with. Those players that come through the academy, we realise what they embody in the local area. We've had about, I think it's 8 within our match day squads this season, and if you think this season's been a real high pressured season where we're expected to be near the top, we demand to be near the top, Mark demands it from the players, there's no let up, there's no easy ins to get into this squad. There's real competition for places, so to have that many of our homegrown players come through, that's why Jack was obviously given a new deal this season, just to cement that's our ethos. We've had younger players. I mean, John Aloes is just in the news recently. We weren't sure where John Aloes could go to at the minute in his development, so we took the course of putting him out on loan to National League North. He's absolutely come back almost a different player, but not really. It's the player that Jamie Devitt and Mark Birch told me that he was. So it was go and prove it. He's come back, and the manager's in alignment with rewarding people like that with contracts. And I think that only breeds more success into the academy. And as you rightly said, in terms of sustainability is the way we want to go. Won't be able to do it overnight, but over a process and through our training methods, and the lads in the academy follow the same training as the lads do in the first team, and therefore there is that pathway to get through. So a youngster in Cumbria can say, oh, look at that lad John Aloes, he's just signed a pro deal, he's gone there, he's worked hard, he's made the trip in to BP week in, week out, and he's been rewarded. And the same with Jack and the rest of the gang, and that's the way we want to go moving forward.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Mark, for that comprehensive answer. Any other football questions from the room? Yes, sir.
On the playing side, regardless of what league we end up in next year, have you any players that you've got in mind to target for recruitment this summer?
Yeah, with recruitment, we have Martin Foyle, who come in this season. He's a head of recruitment working with Jacob Blaine, head analyst, and they have constant targets. So it's like all through the season, even if Mark and the recruitment team are happy with the squad or happy with certain positions, we keep a check on who is coming up in those areas. We have scouts constantly watching, updating our database and our lists. There might be changes of injury, one player might drop out of it, someone might go up, so that when Mark needs a player, we're ready to go with top targets. So that's a constant that's always happening, and we kind of have almost 2 plans. One if we're still in this division, and one for progressing. And so they're constantly being worked on, so it's not a case of a knee-jerk reaction if it comes to a player. We constantly keep a dialogue with the recruitment team of who's available. There's lots of different obviously caveats to that, whether they're contracted, whether they're on a free, what's their age, will they fit in? Because if the player's contracted and the club won't sell him, there's nothing we can do about it. And we just, all that kind of database is logged and continuously moving forwards.
In terms of like the kind of profile of player that you'd be looking at, how do you go about that?
Yeah, well, obviously keeping in dialogue, working with Mark of what's needed, what he feels he's lacking at times in the squad. Someone could get injured, someone could be loss of form, and then we have targets to work through of who'd be the right fit and the right fit for what we want on the pitch. And obviously spoke about it before in terms of character. Sometimes you can have a great player in his character reference. You do a bit of due diligence on what they're like as a character. If it's not going to fit into the team, it's a no from us. They have to fit into the work ethic of this side and the way we want to play front foot football, high scoring football, and that's what's put us where we are really.
Thank you, Mark. Any other questions? Any more football questions, Simon? Yeah, you've been gathering questions from fans in advance of the forums.
Yeah, one for the gaffer, easy one. Have you been practicing penalties? And if so, how would you try to replicate the immense pressure that comes in the real life situation compared to doing it on the training ground?
Yeah, it's not an easy thing. We have started. We started last week actually, and we just bolted onto the end of training. We try and create a little bit of jeopardy with the players, giving each other stick, and we record everything in terms of the penalties that everybody's taking. So obviously when needed, hopefully not Sunday or after that, I'll have a good idea who's the best options if we need to pick the first five. So the answer is yes, we try and tick every box and preempt things, but really, I can imagine on the day if we need to go through that process, it'll be who's got the bollocks to do it, basically.
Brilliant. Any other football related questions from the room?
Just a quick,
Yeah.
They're not counting loan players. How many players have we got out of contract this season?
So after this season's ended, yeah, we'll have 17 contracted players still at the football club. Obviously, we've still got talks to have, decisions to be made on those players that are out of contract, which obviously as the season has not ended, obviously talks haven't happened then, but we're in constant dialogue with myself, Mark, the recruitment team and the wider club on those decisions, and a lot of that will be obviously done at the end of the season, hopefully May the 10th.
Thank you. Just checking on the Slido here for a few more questions, football related. So we've got one here, anonymous. So during the course of this season, we've seen some key players sidelined for extended periods. Is there value in performance-related clauses in contracts so that we're protected financially, and in reverse, how is excellence rewarded? So question there about kind of how contracts work in those situations.
I think in terms of performance-related contracts, you can do them. Would players prefer them? No. So then straight away you cut out a bit of your target market, if you like. If you're offering you have to play X amount of games to achieve what we're offering, and someone else isn't, you'll not get them. I think the way that we've done our recruitment using Martin and Jacob is making sure we do our due diligence on injury record, how many games have they actually played, how many games have they made, why have they missed games, is that just selection or is it medical based? So we'll use Sophie Burney, she'll give us a rating, so it can be a green and amber and red of the risk of injury. Obviously, as we all know, in this intense league, it's probably the most it's intense been. Anything can happen, and I know, you know, my career ended through injury. You can be fit as a fiddle and something happens to you, but we try just to make sure we've done our due diligence, and then we're making an educated decision when it comes to players' injuries. But in terms of negotiation, yeah, you do. If you're going to do incentives like that, you straight away put yourself on the back foot a little, I would say. There can be other incentives put in there, obviously, in terms of, you know, goals, for example. So obviously Regan Linney likes goals. So what do? You incentivise him every time you score a goal, Regan. You know, you can have a Chinese on a Saturday.
Or a can of Red
Not a
Bull.
McDonald's.
Can of Red Bull.
But yeah, generally speaking, the performance area has been superb this season. In line with bringing in the profile that we're after, generally they miss a lot less games because they're fit and they're ready and they're able, and that's what the staff have had to do this season for Mark to keep them turned around. And if they have been injured, they've generally come back quite quickly and ready to go again.
Thank you, Mark. Any further questions from the room? Yeah, you saw, sir.
It was obviously going to be a very competitive season, but you expect it to be so relentless. Over 300 points on the board between the top three teams.
Yeah, amazing, really. It was always going to be challenging. I think we accepted that and expected that. But to have two teams to continually match what we were doing and bettering it on occasions, and it came down to the head-to-heads, really. We didn't do as well against those two teams as we wanted to, and as a consequence, that's impacted on us being as close as we wanted to be. Even though, in saying that, we probably still would have been behind them, given other results as well. So credit to them. You have to hold your hands up and say it would have taken exceptional effort to overcome them. We put in a great effort, but come up a little bit short. But that's only as a consequence of the excellence of those two teams. So yeah, listen, we've just had an unbeaten run. I think it's eight unbeaten right at the business end of the season, and all it did was keep us in the same place. So usually, if you have that run of form at this time of the year, then you expect to really start moving places up the table. But it didn't happen because the two in front were doing exactly the same.
Yeah, great questions. Been an absolutely unbelievable season at the top there. So thank you for that question. Any other questions from the room? Don't be shy. Someone saw a hand over there flashing up. Yeah. What's your name, sir?
My name is Sean,
Yeah.
and it's a question to Mark Hughes. When you come into the club in January or February time last year, we hadn't had the run. What later happened in the season, we had 5, 6, 7 games unbeaten, which we hadn't had for 2 or 3 years at Carlisle. What changes did you make?
Well, I couldn't really judge myself against what happened before. It was only about what I found and what I felt needed to impact the team. I probably was consistent in my messaging, I think, and maybe the standards I like in terms of adherence and how people go about their business on the training ground. It's sometimes very difficult to, or it is nigh on impossible to understand what players get up to away from the training ground, but at least I could affect when they were with us and how we expected them to behave, how we expected themselves to apply themselves on a daily basis, and really it was about understanding what I had in the building. And once I did that, and I think I've said before, it took longer than I'd hoped, but once we got to a point where I understood who could help me and who couldn't, then it gave us a better chance, and that was the group I was going to try and push and make better and demand more of. But that process takes a little bit of time when you're coming in a little bit cold, unfortunately.
Thank you, Sean. Another great question. And if you carry on like that, you might get a job in the media team if you want. Good. Any further questions in the room? Simon, you've got a couple of other ones that fans have submitted.
Yeah, I've got one last one. I mean, I'll ask the gaffer first, but I think other panel members may have a view on this as well. The game has seen a sudden increase in goalkeepers feigning injuries. What could be done to prevent this?
Yeah, there's a lot of debate about it at the moment. A few things being put forward. I don't know where they go with it. They've got to do something about it. I think it's certain games we're having 4 or 5 breaks. And I think it's wrong when you're feigning injury to have that advantage, or you need to break up the momentum. I'm big on momentum. I think it's a huge thing in a football match, and if that is damaged, then it's like I'm always going on to referees, don't give me minutes at the end of the game because somebody's wasting time, give me momentum now. That's why I don't like those breaks. So I think they'll probably look at if the keeper does go down, then somebody else needs to go off or something like that, or as soon as the keeper goes down and you know that he can't leave the pitch, then no one else can go over to the side, and they manage it like that. But I'm sure they'll come up with something weird and wonderful that we won't like anyway, but we'll just have to wait and see how they address it. But I think there's moves afoot to do something about it, and I think that's correct.
Yeah, obviously I'm generally like yards away from it, and it isn't half frustrating because I can see there's nothing wrong there. It might be teams had a red card, referee hasn't let them make a change. Well, just get the goalie to go down, that'll break up the play, and then they can make a change, things like that. But it is frustrating. So I think we'll take some kind of more general club questions as well. So if you've got a burning football question that wasn't asked there, please use the QR code or raise your hand, or catch me afterwards. Or we might have a bit of time to come back to it. But if we can move on, James. So again, we wanted to make sure we reserve plenty of time for kind of general club issues, off the pitch matters, not just football related. I'm sure people have got a lot of burning questions around that. So could just invite Tom just to give a kind of little update on how things are going, kind of non-football related. So,
That's exciting. Yeah, the non-football, very exciting for everybody. I just want to say, this season's we're in progress, and we have an opportunity these last 2 matches. We have an opportunity, and that's what we need to focus on for the rest of for the next 2 weeks. The support that we receive from the supporters, this club received from supporters throughout the season, even in the National League, has been absolutely outstanding. And it's greatly appreciated by all, by the staff, by the players, by the owners, everybody. It's set a new standard for the National League in my mind when we're traveling around, and as we talk to the other directors, it's noticeable, the other directors of the clubs, of what a great following, and it just confirms everything about Carlisle United and this football club and what it can and can't be. So that's a credit. I get asked quite a bit, and I figure I'd just answer the question: are you still enjoying yourself? Are you still committed to the club? I can tell you, it's been a little bit of a rocky road. We're on the upswing right now. We certainly have unfinished business, but the commitment from the family and our love for Carlisle is there. It's strong. We live and die blue, and so we're living in the community, and just appreciate everybody's support and know that you have the ownership support. It's not a short-term thing.
Thank you, Tom. Any other kind of general club questions? Don't be shy. Anything you'd like to ask? Yes, sir. Thank you.
More of a commercial one. We've got new shirts this season. Do the club intend to change the shirt and bring another one in next year, or are they going to try and stick with a shirt for 2 or 3 seasons? Because it is a big outlay, especially when you've got a large family who all want the new strip, not just the home strip, but the away strip, sometimes the 3rd strip every year.
Yeah, good question, and as an avid shirt collector, I do like the new ones coming out. And I think, is that a question for yourself there, Suzanne? You tend to lead on the shirt development.
Yeah, we find that most shirt producers now, in their contract, they insist on new shirts every year. Obviously, it's more for them, it's commercially better for them. We understand that it's an expensive job, but we appreciate the sales. We've had record-breaking sales for 3 years now. We're coming to the end of our contract with Umbro, and we've been moving to a new supplier in the summer. We've had the home sample through, and it's a thing of beauty, so we can't wait to unveil that in the summer.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously driven a lot of commercial success, those kind of, a lot of effort's gone into the shirts, the details of it. I bought this season's home shirt and one from a little boy before I worked here. I just was so excited to see that kit come out. There was an exhibit on at Tully House. I went with him, and it was like being a celebrity. You know, it was the first day it was out. I bought one for myself, and everyone's coming up like, oh wow. No. So we've had some real good success on those shirts recently, but yeah. Certainly I wasn't aware as well of that kind of commercial aspect of kit suppliers building that into the contract, but yeah. Have you got a favourite shirt yourself?
Yeah.
Which one?
Back in the 60s with the Birmingham City style one, with the white straight down the middle.
Yeah.
But I like this one, must admit.
Oh, very good, thank you for the feedback. Brilliant question. Any other questions from the floor? Yes, yourself at the back there, sir.
Tom, you mentioned that there's unfinished business. If there is still unfinished business Sunday week, is the investment strategy for the playing squad different if that business is unfinished, i.e. we're still in the National League versus if we're in League Two?
Well, we have to plan for both outcomes. I mean, the focus, and my sole focus and everybody up here is 2 more wins, and that's the outcome we're looking for, that's what we're pushing for, and that's all we're focused at. But as a business owner, yes, you have to plan for contingencies. We are doing that. But with either contingency, there will be a competitive budget and everything necessary for this club to move up. Our goal, our single focus, is get this club back to the EFL. That's all we focus on, and we'll make sure that funds are available to make that happen.
Thank you, Tom. A couple of questions coming through on Slido as well. So, Graham? Is Graham in the room? Graham Rutherford?
No.
Not in the room, but... Okay. Is that you? No. All right. In any case, two good questions though coming through. First one is question for Tom, so it could be a number of people. Has there been any more plans or ideas to improve the sound coming out of the Warwick Road end? I like the singing section, but you can't beat a noisy Warwick Road end.
So I echo that I really like the singing section. That was a brief push by the club, and the supporters jumped all over that, and to hear that at the Brackley match was amazing. What really touched me on that is you could hear it. The players said they could hear it. The West Stand said they could hear it. And when I looked down and saw young kids running up to join that singing section, that's, you know, I looked at that and say that's the future of the club. They're getting that enthusiasm and everything. So the singing section we hope to expand. Then we come back to the Warwick end. It is an absolute struggle. It's so much noise when you're in there and it does not come out. We have looked at alternatives. Are we acting on any of them right now? No, we're not. But we are looking at alternatives there, from suspended ceilings and some other ones that I probably don't want to go into detail on. But we need to get that energy into the stadium. The players feel it, and it kind of comes down to, you know, we've always said we want to make Brunton Park the fortress. We want to make it where teams come up and say, oh, that's not where I want to play. And having that energy in the stadium is absolutely critical. And so we do talk about that frequently. I think the singing section is a small but a good step in the right direction. And we are talking about the Warwick end, but we don't have a solution in place right now.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the club's really open to ideas, suggestions. So that singing section, for example, that was us working with fans, coming up with an idea there. Can we try it? We meet weekly as a leadership team with owners. We'll put an idea like that forward. Any ideas welcomed. Champion it. What do we need to do? How can we get more of it? And that obviously seemed to go quite well next week. I think it'll go really well on Sunday. And then how can we build it into a bit more of a movement as well? Any other questions in the room?
Yeah, could I just
Yes.
ask about the Neil Centre? There's no cover there for our away supporters. Oh,
Moon River.
Just, the away supporters, we've noticed that they have some occasional bad weather, it's not always like this. And so the away fans come, I know they're not in great number, I know we go to grounds where there's no cover, but is there nothing that we could do of a temporary nature that would be relatively cheap, but yet be able to give them a better experience? Any of you?
It's kind of one in the bank at the moment. We sort of ummed and ahed about the away fans at the start of the year, knowing the numbers would drop. So we tried them up in A stand. B stand didn't like it. Also, it's the home of the community ticket scheme. It's the home of where the children go. So it's a nice, safe environment for them. Excuse me. The waterworks seemed a good option. Gave it a go. It's probably worked better than we kind of imagined it would in the first place. We need to get to the end of the season. We need to see where we end at the end of the season, and obviously the rules are slightly different in the EFL to the National League. So reassess then and see what our obligations are, and look at the options that we've got at that point.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Good question. Thank you. I think that's very much the culture of the club. That's the spirit of the club, to try things and see if it works and be innovative and move on and keep progressing. Any other questions from? Yes, yourself, sir.
Yeah, can I just ask about the sheep mount? How negotiations or discussions are going with the council about the long-term lease?
Yeah, well, the sheet mount, first of all, I think has been a tremendous success in the fact that we've got 3 pitches up there. We had the youth team playing, I think, last night or 2 nights ago. And having the 3 pitches up there as a backup and being in the center of the town is working for us on the short term on the 5-year lease that we have right now. The training center in general, I guess that's probably the question. The training center in general is a significant investment, and with a significant investment, there has to be a much more detailed financial analysis, where some funding can come from. Do we have the right location? Is the sheet mount the right location? And we're weighing the pros and cons of that. We do have a consultant working with us right now, putting that package together. We are in discussions with the council. We know some of the shortcomings there, and we want to build for the long term. So the process is going. It might be going a little bit slower, but I view that as we haven't had a training center before, and we're going to get one. But right now, our focus is we need to get back to the EFL, and that's where all of our efforts are going. But that process is continuing, and we've had meetings with council probably as recently as 3 weeks or a month ago. But we're looking at the whole package to make sure we get this right, because it is a significant investment. It's not a small investment, it is a significant investment, and that takes a lot of analysis to make sure we've chosen the right spot. Right funding can come in from various parties, matched by the club, and get this right, because it's a long-term investment for the future. We want to get it right.
Thanks, Tom. I think obviously it's an you're talking financial investment there, but the other investment is, as a football club, you're about the most powerful thing in the city. You've got such a passionate fan base, such a big audience, such an opportunity to have a positive impact on the city. So it's a financial investment, but also it's such a powerful position. You look at a town like Wrexham and the change that the football club can make there. It's also, where do you put that power and that energy to have the best impact? in terms of that investment. Any other questions from the room? A question from yourself at the back there, sir.
Yeah, it's just a kind of wider one on football generally, really. I mean, obviously you very generously wrote off 12 million quid the other week. You see the accounts coming out from clubs, all the ex-Kirby Wire puts them all out, and you see them all in different places. Football clubs pretty much all across the pyramid are losing a fortune. What can be done to, in this day and age with the huge gap between the Premier League and the other leagues, what can be done to kind of make clubs more solvent and not lose as much money? And how does that sit in your view with American sport? Is it similar over there? Were you surprised coming over here, seeing how much football clubs lose in this country compared to what sports clubs like in America?
Yeah, let me ask or answer the latter part of that first, and we'll come back to the first part. We were well aware of the financial situation coming into the EFL. So we were aware and did our analysis and know the losses that have been accruing by many clubs, especially clubs that are higher up in the leagues in the championship that are losing significant amounts of money trying to make the direction. So we didn't come into that blind. We knew that, and we knew it was going to require ownership funding or ownership equity to get this club moving in the right direction and get it, when I say infrastructure, organizational infrastructure, and the physical infrastructure necessary to move it forward on a continued basis. So that's number one. Number two, how does it compare to American sports? Well, when I look at the MLS, it's a major franchise fee there, and they're pretty much, set in making money with the TV revenues and things of that nature, and they don't have the promotion and relegation. That being said, I don't watch the MLS. I watch English football, and because of the jeopardy that's out there and the stakes that are involved in it. So, I prefer to be on the winning side of the stakes versus the losing side, but it is a difference there. And I think, and I believe, the English football and this structure is the promotion and relegation. I think it should be there. I think, if you work your way up and you apply yourself as a team and you get the benefits of it, that's fantastic. In terms of the actual funding, I think something does need to fundamentally change. I don't, to have 90 plus teams with owner equity being added every year, that is in my opinion, is a slightly dysfunctional model that needs to be fixed, and I know that's being addressed or talked about at various EFL meetings and in relation with the Premier League. So I don't know how that will turn out, but I'm optimistic that with time, it truly is almost an unsustainable business model if it requires owner equity constantly. Coming into it, we knew that. I say, our vision is we three prongs. We want to win on the pitch. We want to have a financially sustainable club and get it there and leave that club. Not that we're in a rush or anything, because I hope we're here for the long term. I hope I'm here for the long term. But it does need to be financially sustainable. And financially sustainable, in my mind, I've been asked that question. What is that? It's not losing £5 million a year. We went through a period of change. You look at the company house reports, we went through a period of change with relegation, organizational, infrastructure investment, restructuring, and that did add up. That's a factor of the last 2 years, and in my opinion, I've boxed that up. That's behind us, and we're looking forward and moving forward. But there is a level of financial sustainability which does require ownership funding right now, and we just need to bring that more in line with where I think it should be. So ultimately, it would be fantastic that there's some changes in the pyramid, more distributions, a cap on player wages or some kind of agreement there so that it is brought in line. It's not there right now. How soon does it get there? I don't know. But between what's happening over here in the States, I would take what's happening over here all the time. The football is just special over here.
There's probably a follow-up for Martini for that as well, in that our players, as they drop down the pyramid, still asking for, some clubs asking for more money than they should really. I know we all would, but, is that still the case?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you can do, people talk, players talk, agents talk. I think what you can do is set a bit of a precedence, and then that gets out how you deal with people. Again, that doesn't happen overnight either. It has to be a consistent message that they're getting, and again, it has to work in with your recruitment drive of what you're looking for. So if you're looking for the type of guys we want are hungry people with the physical profile, but also with the ability. And I think the extra caveat that at our level where we are right now, where we don't want to be, we want to progress, they've got to be able to play in front of that crowd. They've got to have the right character. So you see some other teams might have a player doing quite well for them, but that is extra pressure. You've got to have the right players. That's why myself and Mark prefer to meet the players, especially Mark, you prefer to meet them in person, don't you? And kind of look into their eyes and see, can they take on that pressure, which we did over the summer, didn't you?
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. It's a special places, and the crowd and the expectation brings its own pressures, and players have to deal with that. And sometimes you get a sense when you just get in a room with a player that you think, yeah, this guy would love it. Or obviously the reverse of that is that I think he'll struggle just because it'll be too much. So it's not an exact science, recruitment, unfortunately. So mistakes can be made. But if you've done your due diligence, you've done all the background checks, you like him, you like the guy as a player, then sometimes it's your gut feeling. Sometimes you think, yeah, he's right for us. Every other box has been ticked. And sometimes the type of player, sometimes we talk about maverick players where they've flipped around clubs, and I've dealt with a number during my career as a manager, and as a manager you always think you're going to be the one that gets the best out of them. Though they probably haven't had the best of careers in terms of bouncing around clubs, but sometimes you just got to go with what you see before you, and your judgment, and back your judgment on the play. It won't always come off, but the more experienced you are, and the more guys you've met under those circumstances, the better judgments you can make, I feel.
Just to build on the first part of your question, around that kind of football ecosystem and sustainability, maybe on my understanding, there's maybe someone a little bit more technical on the panel, but there's new kind of regulation in play that would influence it as well.
Yeah, so we've all read about this independent football regulator that's coming in. We're now starting to see the scope of their work and what they're expecting from the clubs. So the regulator will look after about 116 clubs from the Premier League right through the National League into the top of the National League North and South. So we've had our first meeting, our introductory meeting, and now we're at the point of our first financial submission. So we've got to submit P&Ls, balance sheets, cash flow forecasts, debt funding, and what they're going to do with all the club's replies is produce a kind of report on the state of the game. So from that, they will start their risk analysis. A lot of this work involves what they're calling stress tests. So how can the club cope if they're evicted from their stadium, or the council puts their rent up, or their owners walk away, or there's some other catastrophic event that really impacts their P&L. So the licences that they will eventually award in 2027 will have conditions based on how your financial figures react to those different stress tests. How far their powers will go in enforcing a change in that pyramid funding. I know they're keen on looking at the parachute payments and restricting them or shortening those periods, but I think they've got a real tough job on their hands to get clubs at the top end of the Championship and the Premier League to agree to any of these financial rules. They'll find that clubs like us and lots of League 2 and League 1 clubs will be very compliant because we always are and we care about the governance, but beyond that, it's survival of the fittest and it's a fight to be at the top. So Be interesting to see how that progresses. They're still in that kind of consultation period on what do clubs think and what do clubs feel. But by the end of the year, we should start to see the outcome. I think they said October. We start to see the outcome of that first financial test period and what they see as the state of the game.
Thank you, Suzanne. Couple more questions coming through on Slido as well. So kind of open it up a little bit more, football as well. Question from Mark Hughes. Is our first manager that's played for Barcelona. So, how does Brunton Park rank against the Camp Nou?
I've got to be very careful here. Yeah, the only thing I would say is that, yeah, I had the opportunity to play at the Nou Camp, but for the most part, I didn't play particularly well. I haven't had the opportunity to play in an official match on Brunton Park, but I get the opportunity to train on it and watch the guys training. So there's a comparison there, but I'm not quite sure what it is. But I'm pleased that I've been able to experience both of them.
It's probably going to be a slightly cheeky question here. So I was interviewing Mark through the week and I was thinking, probably should ask about the last playoff semi-final, but how do you do that? What's the vibe here? And he did voluntarily mention it, so I'm going to ask this question. Very well put, by the way. Our last promotion playoff semi-final was full of drama and passion. What was it like on the opposite side against Carlisle? And are you hoping to be on the right side of the result this time?
Well, the easy answer is yes, of course. I loved the last playoff. I was an opposition manager at the time, clearly, but I just thought it was a great football occasion. I thought the atmosphere on the day was something really special, and although on that day I was on the wrong end of it, I could understand the joy and the elation of everybody from Carlisle, because it was huge effort from Semler's team on that day, and they turned it around and deserved to go through. So being a football person and a football man, I could appreciate that part of it. The rest of it, absolutely not.
Back to get the fireworks back out of the box and stuff.
It was you, wasn't it?
I'm told to say that one.
I thought that was clever as well, actually.
That's why I wasn't my head.
So, trying to involve a couple of panellists at the end there as well who haven't spoken yet. So, James, one of the kind of early question for James Tozer, I guess here, one of the early questions that came through, because I know it's an area that you specialise in. How will the leadership team support the equality, diversity and inclusion team at the club? Inclusivity is very important.
Evening everyone. Been really quiet on the end here, so it's nice to have an opportunity to talk. I think EDI runs through everything that we do, and I don't know if many people at the football club know about the football club's charity. Over the past few years, with the support of the family, I think it's really, in terms of being a much better promoted and exposed, and a lot more people get to know about what we do. But the football club has a real responsibility to help the people who support it, and also help, obviously, the area which it's located in. And this is where the trust comes in, and I think we do a fine job at that. We deal with over 20,000 unique participants a year, and we deliver over 200 hours a week of community services. And throughout all those 30-odd projects that we run, EDI runs through all of that. And I think over the past couple of years, we've really expanded that on a match day. And we've got Teresa and a team of volunteers who bring different organisations, different charities here to the football club. And I'm sure that you guys, when you've been out there in the fan zone, have seen Teresa and her team about, and how supportive they are and how much they're trying to help everybody. But I've also got another massive team of staff who day in, day out are out there delivering to, whether it's a 2-year-old in a nursery, or I think our oldest is 111 years old in one of the care homes. So we're really trying to offer something for all the family. We're trying to get to all the hard to reach. And I'm being ill-advised here, but I think that we're definitely something that the club and the fans should be really proud of.
Thank you, James. Just to bring that to life a bit, so there was a United in Memories session. I was just giving someone a tour around Button Park the other day, and this room is full with our United in Memories session, which is something that I think you're involved in, Keith, as well, which gives supporters and people in the community with dementia an opportunity to come together, to feel part of the club. You know, it was absolutely brilliant, you know. Like this, absolutely buzzing. I just thought you might not realise that a football club does that, but I just thought it was pretty special. Yeah, thank you, James. Can I just ask how many people in the room have been in one of our hospitality suites, lounges, pre-match this season, or just generally? So quite a few people, which is good to see. So. Kerry, obviously you're commercial manager, you're responsible for the hospitality in the club. There's been a big investment in this side of the stadium. You've kind of done some stuff with the other side as well. Maybe just give people an update from a commercial point of view in terms of how we're capitalising on that investment in the hospitality and what we're doing and how it is for you.
Yeah, so I think we started last year, and when we first started out, it's obviously a real... we started with a completely different offering over here. We weren't sure how that would go down, a different offering in terms of the food. So we started thinking, right, let's get the food offering right, get people in, get some feedback, and then we'll start to look at the match day experience. I feel like we've really excelled with that this year. The lounges have been so busy. If you manage to get a space on the east side in hospitality, you're doing well. So it makes me really proud to walk through on a match day. The atmosphere's been fantastic, and it's not just about filling the lounges, it's about making sure that people are having a good time when they're here. We welcome people's feedback. Trust me, we look at it, we go through it, ways that we could make it better. We've had lots of former players in this season, we've had singers in, we've had table magicians, so we've done lots to try and enhance it and make sure that it's about the experience and not just coming for the hospitality. I think that's really important. We obviously put some nice seating in, we call them the black seats. Sure, lots of you have been in them in the stand. So yeah, we've really tried to enhance that. And yeah, even if, I'm thinking about the west side now, but when I went out there on Saturday, that fan zone, that was really special on Saturday, I thought. It really felt like everybody was together. You know, with the away, and it was one of the moments that I just stood back and felt really proud to be part of this club. The away supporters bus was coming out and everybody stood back and was clapping it out, and I just felt like that was a really proud moment. They also clapped the chippy van afterwards. But yeah, so it's been absolutely fantastic what we do. We welcome feedback, so if anybody's got anything, please send it my way.
What impact does that have on the club commercially? How's that been this season?
Yeah, commercially it's been fantastic this season. You know, there's obviously after 2 relegations, it's a little bit, how's this going to go? We leave a few weeks before we start going out to sponsors, and what do we do? But you know what? Thank you to everybody, businesses, fans, supporters. Everybody has stuck with us. We've tried to add value and impact rather than it just being very transactional. And try and build, well, the team does. We try and build good relationships with everybody, listen to everybody's feedback and act on it. I think we've done that really well this year. We've looked at processes and how we can do things better. We've had a record-breaking year in our department, so it's been really good, and that's credit to the staff as well because they've been fantastic.
And I would just add to that. He's done a great job. But the numbers, you know, we went from League Two down to National League. And hospitality sponsorship is up 26%, approximately 225,000 quid. And that's phenomenal when you think about taking a step down in the leagues and to have that kind of support. And that's recurring revenue streams that will come in. You know, we see that as recurring revenue streams. And so the support that has been coming in is fantastic, and that's what's necessary to run a financially sustainable club. There's going to be owner equity being put into it, but we all have to do our part in a way. And so one story that I just wanted to highlight, you may have read it, was you know, we had the car park. We've had a lot of not complaints, but can you improve the car park and things of that nature. We had a discussion with Story Contracting, and Fred Story and his group came out and they resurfaced and expanded the car park so we can get more cars in there, and they did that free of charge. That's the community support that we need. I mean, that's the community support that I would just say, as a business, if you're running a business, how can you do your part to support this club? Because this is a community asset. Yes, you know, we'll provide what's necessary, but it is a community asset, and there's other things that can be done. A small example is I had someone bring up, you know, have you pressure washed the facility? I'm like, well, that's a big facility to pressure wash. I've done my driveway once or twice. But, you know, that's something where, yeah, we get the supporters to come out and help with that. We provide the pressure washers. We can do things of that nature, and it doesn't take away from the financials of the club. It makes the experience, the match day experience, better for everybody. So from a business perspective, I do think there's more that can be done, and we will be reaching out, and there will be an ask, and hopefully you know, you can do more to support the club. But it has been a very good year, and I give the commercial department tremendous credit. I know they work hard on match day to try and make sure everybody has a wonderful time here, and we are seeing the benefits of that. We just need to continue to push, and I see that. I see this club having that ability to bring in additional sponsors, additional businesses, additional supporters into hospitality, because we're going to continue to grow, we're going to continue to expand, and we're going to start moving up the pyramid.
Thank you, Tom. There's a few questions coming through that are a little bit more technical around kind of season tickets and information, which I'll take all of those down and provide an update. I think that's probably the essence of doing those things. But is there any more questions from the room that haven't been asked?
Just one for Matt.
Yeah.
Matt's escaped so far.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something to ask you.
Well, basically, obviously, the trust's a 10% shareholder in the club. So, you know, what's the current relationship with the club? Kind of plans for the trust? I mean, I see Dan and a couple of others maybe taking that gazebo up and down on a match day. Are there any kind of, you know, as a 10% shareholder, are there any kind of plans for more permanent fixtures than that? And like I say, what's the trust doing at the moment with the club and so on and so forth?
I'll start with the relationships. I've been a member of the trust for about 8 years or so. I've been on the trust board for 3.5 years now. I think the relationship that we have with the club now is probably stronger than it's ever been. It's really difficult to balance that relationship, because the trust is often only needed in times of adversity. So when things are going wrong, when people want change, yes, we've just been relegated 2 times, but off the field, things have been going very well. We've seen the growth, we've seen the development, we've seen the ownership change. And that's something that the Supporters Trust, John Kakuch will know for a lot of years, people were pushing for ownership change, and they wanted to see people with the ability to take us forward. Once that happened, the trust role significantly changed. We went down to 10% shareholding. We've probably been let off for a couple of decades with not having to contribute financially. So the trust mindset at the moment is, what can we do to add value to the membership? What can we do to make or give people a reason to be members? So this year, the away travel, it's generated more income. It means that we're able to do more with Kerry in the commercial department to contribute not the same amount of money that Tom is, but we're contributing more than we have, and that's what we want to continue. I think the biggest thing that the trust can do is, and we are trying really hard, I know Samantha's in the room tonight, she's one of the board members, we're trying to sort of find that way of connecting with fans that we haven't connected with before. What can we do that's different? What can we do to be a supporters club? Give people a reason to join us, and then the more people that join us, the more £10 we collect every year, the more money we can fill back into the club.
Thank you for that question. Just to add to that as well, I love the challenge that the Trust gives, or the challenge that the supporters groups give. We can't improve what we're doing without that challenge. And like, it's brilliant just to be able to go to you as kind of how a fan's going to, you know.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't see is the role the Trust do play at the club, and you know, we're not here making key decisions, we're not here choosing players, and I'm certainly not involved in any of the football discussions. Where we are involved is the week-to-week chats, the dropping into the office, and it's the Kerry asks you a question, what do you think the fans will think of this, and the Trust have got a bit of a database of feedback that we can tap into, get real-time information that's maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks up to a couple of months old, and it allows us to help shape the matchday experience, the whole club experience for fans. I think one thing that everyone in the leadership groups have really focused on for the last 2 years is make your visit to Brunton Park not just about the 90 minutes on the pitch. No disrespect to Mark and Mark, it is really good. We do like the football, but if we can get people here from 12 till 6, 7, 8 after the game, when we're talking about the club needing more income, when we're talking about the football pyramid needing to be more sustainable, when we're talking about how can we do more as a business community to help the club, it's things like that that really do help. If we can have people here enjoying the matchday experience and it not just being about the football, you're creating routine, we're creating habit where the cash ability from the club to be generated is huge.
Thanks, Matt. There's a question here around CUTV. Was that a question from someone in the room? Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to speak if you don't want to, but was that a question in the room? Question around what we're going to do with CUTV, how can we add more value for fans through that. So, from my point of view on CUTV, we've run it largely the same kind of service as we have been doing previously, offering additional football content, a bit of behind the scenes. It's something that I'm committed to developing, improving, so mark me on that. If that hasn't improved next season, you know, hold me to account on that. We focused on really like bringing a lot of the storytelling in the club, bringing out the people in the club, showing behind the scenes more, really trying to establish better quality content. We want it to be authentic. We don't do kind of forced fun and, you know, real trivial daft things. We really want it to be authentic, high quality in media. So in terms of how does that sit within CUTV, it's a case of getting those basics right first, and that type of content you want everyone to see, you want everyone to connect with the club. There's a real need to do that, but it is something on the radar to improve next season. Probably come out to people and ask for feedback, because that's, you know, it's the best way to improve something, is what do people actually want. Look at what other clubs do and how they run those channels, and again, as with everything that we do, just think really broadly, nothing off limits, what can we try? So my answer to that question is I will improve that, develop it, and, you know, mark me on it. Any other questions from the room?
I think there's maybe a chance with that, exactly mentioning Sam, I think there's probably a chance to do more older historical content, which, you know, is something Simon, John have been heavily involved with, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely, with great interaction with the Heritage Group, brilliant asset. Me and Adam, Adam's our videographer up there, hiding away. We went up there a few weeks ago. We did that season ticket video, and it was absolutely incredible just being up there and seeing all the history, the moments. We were digging out old season tickets, old footage, just try and knit it together with what we're doing now. But yeah, I agree. There's so many incredible moments at Carlisle United where you think, well, we need to make the most of that. Any other questions from the room? Yes, sir.
When everybody else, all the ones that can afford it, are down at London a couple of weeks' time, will it be on a big screen for up to our pensioners?
Great question.
Yeah, if we're busy next Sunday, it'll be on in the fan zone, and we're going to look at opening some of these lounges as well.
Yes, Simon, please.
It's a good segue to a couple of questions which I'll roll together. Commercially, are we going to be showing the England matches in the World Cup given the kick-off times? I don't know whether we're allowed to with the licensing, but it could potentially be a big earner. Secondly, looking a year after that, the Tour de France is in Carlisle. That would present some significant opportunities. Have we started that engagement with the relevant people so that we can be at the forefront of that huge experience and possible influx of 100,000 people to Carlisle that day alone?
On the World Cup one, we've checked our licence, and the first two or three, there's one that's a really dodgy kick-off that might upset people that live near us, but the earlier ones, and then I think the knockout stages are okay as well. I think there's just one game that's a potential no.
Yeah, and just on the Tour de France question as well, so that's on my radar. One of the South Cumbria supporters group members, who's a very passionate cyclist, put that onto my radar, and we had a great conversation about that and ideas for that, so that's something that we will do.
Forgot to mention Scotland Games Simon, you said that was could be a crucial day.
They'll have to plan the knockout games for the Scotland monitor too.
USA Games.
Actually, most of the USA games are, I believe, Tom, aren't they on the West Coast?
Yeah, West Coast.
So the times would be just, I probably wouldn't even fit in with, but if thousands are going to show up for the USA games, yeah, we'll get them on
We'll not mention the Wales games. Yeah, so quite a few questions coming through online as well, which we're getting close to time. We obviously started a little bit late, so allowed a bit more time, but maybe if we just take a few more questions from people to something that's really, something that you really want to ask that we haven't covered yet. Yeah, go ahead.
Mark, there's obviously highs and lows in football. My highs this season have been the double over Forest Green. Hopefully there's another one to come. There's obviously been a couple of lows being in this division. What's your low of the season? There's got to be one.
Well, nothing jumps out at me. There probably is one if I'd give it a bit of thought. I move very quickly on from disappointments. I think that's the right way to deal with it. I wouldn't be doing this job my ungodly age for so long if I didn't have that ability to move on quickly. I think that's an important trait that you need to have as a manager, and I've got that thankfully. So low points, losses clearly when you feel that maybe the performance isn't where you know it needs to be, and the players know that they've underachieved. So losses will always be a downer, but like I said, for the most part this season has been more about good performances, successful games, good away performances, accumulating points and trying to get us in a position to get out of this league. And I think we all look back on this season, we'll all have a view on it, I'm sure, but if we were able to achieve what we set out to achieve, which was clearly to get out of this league at the beginning of the season, then it'd be a great season, because I think the highs certainly outweigh the lows. But give me a little bit more time to think about it, and I'll come back to it. There will be one, clearly, but there's more highs for me.
Thanks for the question. John, did you?
Yeah, one for Tom predominantly. I'd just like to ask, what were the reasons specifically behind Nigel Clivens' departure as CEO, and I guess more significantly, what are the current plans for succession in that position?
Yeah, the reason, first of all, Nigel was a great servant and CEO for this club for over 8 years, and he did a tremendous job, and I absolutely wish him the best. The rationale was the club's entering a new phase. We're entering a growth phase. We're entering some commercial growth, pace, execution, and at times your CEO, who obviously runs the entire organization, has to have that specific skill set for that phase that you're in. And that was really the driving, that drove the decision. It was just simply, we're moving on to a new phase, and with that, a new skill set is required to push the club forward. So once we made that decision, the board made that decision, from a timing perspective, we were, let's execute and have that discussion and move quicker rather than later and let it wait. The process right now is we are in contract with EISG, Executive and Sports Groups. They are going through the process. We've provided the job description of what the position, what we're looking for in terms of that position, the leadership, the pace, the execution, the experience that we're looking for, and we've asked them to throw a wide net. They're doing that right now. They've been doing that for the last for quite some time. These discussions started about a month ago. This is such a key position that we're not going to rush it. We are. Let's get a thorough search. Let's get the candidates. Let's whittle it down and start doing the interviews. So that's occurring right now, and I don't have a definitive timeline as when a decision will be made. It's when we identify the right candidate who's the right fit for Carlisle United Football Club to lead this club forward for the next 10 years.
Is someone kind of taking bits of that role and doing it themselves in the meantime?
I couldn't hear you.
Is someone kind of taking bits of his role and taking a bit on each in the meantime?
Yeah, we've put an interim transition team in place, and right now that is all the department leads reporting directly up to me. The club is operating fantastically right now. We are not missing a beat. Obviously, we're going into a semi-playoff final and then to Wembley. So there's a lot more that's going on right now that we've had to be engaged in, but everybody is stepping up. The culture of the club, of the organization is great. There's tremendous positivity. I don't think we're missing a beat. Everything's being addressed, and that's why knowing that that's occurring right now, that we have the right people in the right roles doing the right things, it gives us the time to make sure we find the right person who's the right fit for this club, because that's absolutely critical.
Thanks for asking that, John. That was a question that had come through as popular in the online here, slightly less eloquently worded, John, so you've dug me out of the hole there. Another question that came through in advance was in relation, from Derek Scott, was in relation to the supporter survey. So I'm sure a lot of people in the room will have completed our fan engagement survey. So which things have led to action and what we're doing. So one thing that came through really strongly was the fans forum. So we're sitting on one of those actions now, and feedback welcome on the forum as well. Just email me about that and ideas. Another thing we've committed to as well is monthly update, a monthly bulletin, which will come from owners and leadership, which obviously the contents of this informs that. It keeps people in touch with the club, what's happening, regular update, a bit of consistency in the club as well. Another thing that came through strongly in the survey was in terms of how do we improve the stadium atmosphere, how do we improve that, and obviously, as you'll notice, we're trying lots of different things. We've been engaging with supporters groups on the singing section, how do we develop that, really open to ideas. You'll see there's so much going on match day to try and improve the atmosphere. A couple of little additional extras for Sunday as well to look out for, which I won't spoil the surprise on. So again, something we're really acting strongly on. Another thing that came through strongly in the survey was people like the idea of kind of the smaller supporters groups, those smaller Q&As and actions. So again, been working closely with supporters groups on taking something. I think it's a brilliant thing. You know, every 6 weeks we meet with supporters groups. It will be the CEO, it will be members of the leadership team. Every 6 weeks you've got the opportunity to ask anything you want. So at the very least, I can do a better job of communicating that. We've done all the hard work, you know, we've put the club update, we've met people, communicated better, and that's something that we can take and, you know, keep it going, keep the momentum going on it, and, you know, improve it where we can. So that's a few actions, you know, there's a limit to how much you can do immediately. We've got all that captured. A couple of other things that came out that we'd like to act upon was a bit of a theme to reach out to Cumbria a bit more. We are the Cumbrians, we are Cumbria's only real professional football team. It's our name, it's our identity. You know, you look at a heat map of where people come from. They're coming from everywhere. They're coming from Penrith, Kendal, West Cumbria, South West Scotland. Before I worked here, I would go to the match with a couple of friends from Gretna, Annan. So again, that kind of outreach into Cumbria more, which again, that's something to mark me on. How can we improve that? And we'll continue with that. We'll continue with that. So thank you to everyone that completed that, and hopefully there's been some improvements on that front. So going to wrap up shortly. So final kind of chance, if there's any questions that you've been waiting to ask and you haven't quite had the chance yet. So we've got one, two. I think we'll probably take the 2 more questions. Probably got time for that, so yeah.
Just wondering if there's any going to be any improvements in the West Stand, more like the B Stand. I feel like it's lacking in just like the toilets are not the best in our stand, and the bar's always red hot with the aircon. I don't think it works properly. Something like improvement on that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the club approach to that, and just the general kind of Brunton Park development itself, is to look at everything that it would need and everything that could be improved. And this is like very much the approach of the club, is to go out to all departments, all head of departments, and just identify where could you make improvements. It might be there's an opportunity to do something better, or it might be something isn't up to scratch. If you get everything down on paper, and obviously the main focus is getting out of this league, but if you get everything down on paper, you can work out what to do when, what would it take, who could help with it, how could we support it, and that includes some of the things that you've mentioned there. It could be anything. It could be floodlights, it could be the dugouts, it could be the hospitality lounges. But in terms of that west side, what's gone really well for us this season is in Foxes. We've added a bit of entertainment pre-match. The vibe in there is absolutely brilliant. I love going in there doing a bit of media before the match. Everyone's bouncing, the atmosphere is brilliant. So that's somewhere where we'd like to give it a bit of a refresh. Nothing major. It's good as it is. People love it. We started planning for a Hall of Fame. So and that's, you know, we're kind of committed to that. We started the planning for that. What would it look like? How would it shape up? Got to a point, and there just wouldn't have been time to kind of complete that earlier in the season. So that's something that we're looking at, and that could be something that does uplift an area in the west side. You can imagine something like that, really adding a bit of character, still paying tribute to the heritage of the club, bringing the story to life. So that's potentially something that we could do, where we've kind of committed to it, done a lot of the legwork on how would it look, support from the heritage group on the logistics and things. So things like that we can do. But yeah, it's a good question. Thank you. Would anyone else on the panel like to comment on that, or hopefully I've not said anything that wasn't on brief?
No, I think you captured it pretty well. We have a list of 35, 40 projects that need to get done. The toilets on the West End are on there, and we're actually getting quotes for that right now. But it's just a balance of where the capital goes right now, with the focus being we need to get out of the National League. So this is a wonderful property, and it still needs maintenance upgrades that have probably been deferred for 18, 20 years. But we're working through that. We have that list. We're prioritizing them, and there'll be an upcoming decision on what we will action this off season.
Yeah, I think you might be the. I think you might be the last question, so
Right, thank you very much. I'm from Down Kendal. Now, the only thing that we find out with we don't get enough media talk from you. Now, on your Facebook the other week, well, a few months ago, there was a bit about Charlie White, and it was absolutely belting. That really was a good story. You did a real good job there. And since then, there's been nothing, absolutely nothing. I would like you to start showing me how many tickets you get rid of every day. Come on that Facebook page, show it. The razzmatazz is gone. It's not in Carlisle. I'm sorry, if you don't live in Carlisle, you don't know what's going on. And it's about time you started looking after us that have been coming up here for 60 years. All right, thank you.
No, I think it's a good challenge, and as I say, that is something really on my radar, is like reaching out more broadly to fans, reaching out to fans in areas like Kendal. Appreciate the feedback on the Charlie White video, so that was you know, kind of a real collaborative project, but Adam, I'll just since you stood there, pay tribute to that. But
Is it under 18 matches? We don't
Yeah.
know when they play.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
know when it's finished, when match is finished, we get a match
Yeah.
report about it, but
Yeah.
nobody tells us what's going on. We don't know when we have it,
Yeah.
so we can't go to it.
absolutely hit the nail on the head with the academy as well. So we've had someone in covering the academy recently, which is a good step for us. I've spoken to Andy Lowe, who's obviously our new academy manager, about how we improve the coverage there. I mean, really interesting stories just following the academy. So again, it's a real opportunity for us. I think it's probably difficult for us to cover everything all at once. I wouldn't disagree with any of your points. I think the things that we could be doing and should be doing. But I think since the Charlie White video as well, we've covered some really interesting stories, some things that the club does. So people might have seen the video with Nigel, he's one of the matchday meeters and greeters. I don't know if people saw that, but I just met him in the fan zone. I thought he's actually an incredible person, and just told his story, and someone like that has such a positive impact on the club, meeting new fans, showing them around. I went to a school visit with the players, with Regan Linney, Whelan, Archie Mayer last week, and we covered that, myself and my colleague Jack, and that was just an incredible moment. The teacher was in tears at the end of it. There was, he just said the difference it makes to these kids is kids asking really insightful, engaging, brilliant questions I couldn't even think of. I wanted to hire them all into the media team, and giving advice to the players, and he said, you know, some of these kids, that will really make a difference to their life. The players loved it as well. They're really committed to it. So a couple of highlights for me from a media point of view, where we are trying to keep that quality of production, that storytelling like the Charlie White video going. But yeah, really appreciate the question, and you've hit the nail on the head with quite a few of those points, and again, things I want to get to. Yeah, thank you, sir. Last calls for any last
just a very quick
messages,
one
moments.
from Mark. I don't
Yeah.
the room might not be aware, but Morecambe have taken Halifax's manager just this evening. Is that a surprise or?
Yeah, I mean, Lakeland's a good coach. I did hear a couple of days ago that he might be on the move there, and obviously we've seen Morecambe getting relegated and thought they were going to move quickly, but yeah, again, well-respected coach in the game, so yeah, fair play to Morecambe, and they'll be on their journey. Obviously, you know, it's not gone well for them this season. Wish them all the best for next season, but yeah, just all eyes on us now, all eyes on next game, and just to touch on the support and the fan zone, and players do notice the support. They do notice that. I mean, even the staff mentioned to me the fan zone was absolutely shocker after the last game at Brackley. And they do notice that. They do notice the sounds in the stadium. They do notice when everyone gets in early. They do notice when allegedly the away team bus can't quite get there on time because they've just got to move some fans out of the way. And it's obviously unfortunate we won't want that to happen again. But the support that you give, it filters down right through the club. And we're all in this together. We're all wanting the best for the club all together. There's no us and them. It's the media's following as well, the local media's following us as well, telling the story, and this will be a great story if we can go into these 2 games with everyone behind us. So just on behalf of everyone in the football department, thank you for your support, and please keep it coming.
Thank you, Mark. I think we'll finish on that moment of positivity and looking forward to the weekend. On that note as well, if you want to leave a message for any of the players, the squad, Mark Hughes, please leave it on there. Please use the QR code. I will deliver it to the players and they will read a message that you have written or supplied for the weekend. But yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for all your questions, engagement. Hopefully it looked okay on the stream as well. You can watch it back on the stream and for posterity. But yeah, thank you everyone. Can't wait for Sunday. It's going to be absolutely buzzing at Brunton Park, and we're going to win. And there's going to be a trip to Wembley. If I ever cursed it by saying that, I can. But yeah, thank you everyone, and have a great night.